I am Don Galade, and welcome to Book 101. Book 101 is all about the books that I read for the last 40 years, and today I have my special guest. He's international best-selling author, Christian filmmaker, financial advisor, and explains the correlation between politics, money, and the Bible. No other than Mr. Don Galade.
How are you? Thank you for having me.
Welcome to Book 101, Mr. Don. I'm great like you, and can you please introduce yourself?
Well, I don't know, the intro you just gave me made me sound so good. I don't know if I could do any better than that.
That'd be
so,
awesome.
I've pretty much been a financial advisor as a career my entire life, but I've been an amateur filmmaker, and always been. I'm a third generation musician in our family too. My father actually worked with the late great Patsy Cline, which was kind of fun to hear those stories. But I wrote my first book as kind of a self-help financial piece to it was pretty interesting on how the correlation between what God says in the Bible and what he says about money. So that was pretty exciting. It actually became an international bestseller, which was pretty interesting. And then I my second book was a also in my industry, but more just pure financial. Was called Five Steps, Your Guide to Financial Health. And then my third one is the one that kind of summarizes all of it combined. Kind of I look at it as the things you're not supposed to talk about at a family gathering. God, guns, money, politics, all those things rolled into one. And that became an international bestseller as well. Ironically, in about 12 days, it was awesome.
Oh, congratulations,
Thank you, thank you.
Mr. Don. So, at what age did you realize that you're good in writing?
What's funny, I'm kind of an old man now. I'm pushing 60, and probably the first book wasn't until I don't know. I think it was like 46, 47. My wife was on a missions trip in Africa, and I was we homeschooled our kids, so I was took time off and was playing Mr. Mom, and yeah, I actually felt this nudge where God was saying you should write a book, and I kind of laughed and opened up the laptop and just started typing. It was pretty interesting.
Definitely. What inspired you to become an author?
It was really an accident almost. Like I said, the first time I tried doing any writing, it was just to try to something that I was passionate about that I wanted to share. And ironically, it took off. So then I thought, well, this is pretty interesting. Let's see where it goes.
Yes, definitely. So, can you tell us about your writing process?
As a musician, you kind of have that left brain, right brain kind of processing going on. And I think the traditional way of writing would be to create an outline and then to do your research and then, plug it in appropriately. I kind of have almost a dare I say, like an ADHD approach here because I just start typing what I'm feeling and what I'm thinking, do research, then type some more, and then kind of put it together like a puzzle. And because God has a sense of humor, my daughter went to Liberty University, majored in English because her passion was to be a writer, which is hysterical because that's not my passion. It's just a hobby, kind of, so to speak. And then it was really worked out neat because I was able to have her be my professional editor and feedback from what a real writer is supposed to do and sound like.
How do you develop your characters or plot lines in your book?
Well, I haven't everything I do is real life. I haven't done any fictional. So the characters are pretty much us, our everyday people, right? The latest book, which is called Awoken, conspiracy or theory. The interesting thing is, I've always been enamored by conspiracies. They're exciting. They're fun. You can get involved into something that's, is it true? Is it not true? And I think that probably stems from being enamored by the Kennedy assassination when I was a kid, and the first, what I would refer to as official conspiracy theory. So, if there's a conspiracy theory that exists, I've listened to it, studied it, did research on it, and one day I was noticing that my favorite book in the Bible is the book of Revelation, and I've spent about 10 years um, studying that through the ministry of Perry Stone, who, if you've never heard of him, I suggest our readers check him out. He's brilliant. But studying the book of Revelation, I started to see some things that were prophesied thousands of years ago are actually kind of unfolding in some of these conspiracy theories. And then when you start to look politically, what's happening in the world, with the World Health Organization and the one world currencies and the different plagues and pandemics and all of the things that we've gone through since the last, 3 or 4 years, some of that stuff is actually foreshadowed in the book of Revelation. And then I was like, this is pretty interesting, because you could take what God has said in his word, what's going on in the news, what's going on politically, and you can kind of actually see it all come together. And I realized that everything on this planet boils down to one thing. It's not Democrat, Republican. It's not white versus black. It's not Palestinian versus Jew. It's not even right or wrong. It's just good versus evil. And it really boils down to the enemy, which of course is Satan, has from the Garden of Eden planned on killing, destroying, and causing any person that has flesh on their bones torture and harm. And it's been that way from then, and it'll be that way until the very, very, very last day, when Satan and Jesus have this incredible battle. Well, he'll lose. Jesus wins, of course, on the Battle of Armageddon. And everything in between is us. Everything in between is our lives. And it's all good versus evil. And it's pretty, pretty scary. And at the same time, it's kind of exciting when you realize we win. We're the good guys. We win.
Very well said, Mr. Don. So, what challenges have you faced in your writing career?
Well, of course, there's the how do I get the message out? And I'm so thankful and blessed by folks like you that invite me onto their podcasts and allow me to be a voice of hopefully things that people will want to read. I want to be more of an educator than an author. I'd like people to say, you know what? I'm not going to just take for granted what somebody has said, somebody has written, what God forbid what's on the news, because I don't know if there is a news source that is legit anymore. And somebody will just say, I want facts, and I want facts that I can prove, and I want facts that will actually make me think, life is good, and people are not all intrinsically bad. And sure, there's plenty of bad people, but at the end of the day, there are still good people. There are still groups that you could participate with that do honor God in their everyday tasks. and it doesn't have to be such strife and turmoil. So the struggle is getting the message out. The struggle is getting people to say, I don't want to hear about conspiracy. I don't want to hear about politics. I don't want to hear about money. Well, guess what? That's all we got right now. You can't turn on the computer, the news, the radio, a newspaper without hitting those three topics. So we might as well get the truth.
Definitely, indeed. So, how do you handle writer's block?
Oh, well, that's that's awesome. I don't. A lot of people say, okay, I'm going to schedule from 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock. I'm going to write today. Well, my brain doesn't work that way. My brain is I'm working with a client that I get an idea, so I scratch a note down, and when I have time in between a client, then I'll just let's develop this, or I'll read something or see something that sends me on what I refer to as a rabbit trail, and then the rabbit trail turns into something where wow, this is totally different from where I started. So is it because more normal people have an outline and I don't? So is this in line with what I'm doing? Is this something totally different? And that's where later on I'll say, this doesn't work. Let's we're not going to delete it, but we're going to put it on the side over here. Maybe that's something else. So I don't have a goal in mind of when the finished product is, because then that doesn't have any stress. I guess it's because I don't consider myself an author by profession, at least yet. Maybe someday when I quote unquote retire, I can be. But for now, it's just I just want to be a tool that is used by the Lord to help people get a message out.
Well said, Mr. Don. What authors or books have influenced your writing?
That's a great question. There's a gentleman by the name of Jonathan Cahn. Jonathan Cahn's a really interesting guy. He's a rabbi that became a Christian who really has some interesting yet truth in his writing, but he has a style that makes it like a story. So it's really, really, really fun. There's the gentleman that I spoke of before, Perry Stone. He has also a lot of truth that he can back up with the Word of God. I think there's probably some other folks. Like I know I'm not much for a fictional or nonfiction kind of, or excuse me, the fictional world. My daughter and my sons are into Ted Dekker, and I've dabbled a little bit of their writings. I can't say that they've influenced me, but I find it intriguing. So I think what I am influenced by most are other writers, authors, and producers that have a similar feel for what I do and the way I want to write, and they kind of have a similar style.
But before we go on, I want to shout out to the people listening according to my ranking tops in the last 30 days. Because in Jamaica, I got number 1 on the Apple chart, Cameroon at number 9, Zambia at 56, Cambodia at 85, Malawi at number 27, Ghana at 62, United Republic of Tanzania at 95, Azerbaijan at 121, Japan at 163, Malaysia at 157, and a lot more. Thank you so much for supporting this podcast, because this podcast is created to empower writers all over the world like Mr. Don Galade. So, Mr. Don, let's talk about your latest book.
Well, that is where I was just mentioning how the three things there, the four things that I speak about on at a holiday dinner, are the things rolled into one, into this book. And it was released on December 5th of last year. And by the end of the month, of last year, we were at the international best-selling status through Amazon Kindle, which was exciting. Several different countries where we hit the mark of the international bestseller, if you will, and it's just been a wild ride ever since.
Congratulations, Mr. Don. How did you craft the book?
It was all done through Amazon's system. I don't have an actual publisher, at least not yet. And I pretty much uploaded it to their platform. And then through other sources where you have these international press releases that, of course, you pay for. They release it to, I think, about 400 different media sources. And of course, they're advertising the link of where the book is on Amazon. And then within the first couple of weeks, it just skyrocketed. So it's AWOKEN. And then the byline is conspiracy or theory. So actually, if you Googled those words, AWOKEN, conspiracy or theory, it takes you right to the Amazon link. And I purposely priced the book in a very reasonable format. It's only $14.95 American, because I wanted it to be something that, first of all, I wanted to get the message out, and you know, I wanted it to be something that anybody can afford.
What behind the title of this book?
Well, it's kind of a spoof off the word woke, because everybody in this generation is saying they're woke, or sometimes even churches are woke because they're more worried about appeasing people. They're more worried about entertaining. They're more worried about what's politically correct. So a lot of what I'm saying here, under the auspice of taking a jab at the woke world, is to show people we need to wake up. These conspiracy theories that you hear on the news every day, well, a lot of them are true. The junk that's going on in the world, and where we're seeing the world going, and where we're going to see a one world government. We will see a one world currency. We will see a one world leader who will indeed be the Antichrist. So all of this is broken down and then reassembled, so we can see here's what God said is going to happen. There's going to be a one world government. And we could see the United Nations and the World Health Organization and the UN and all these international governmental groups are assembling what is going to ultimately be a one world government. We could see through countries getting off the gold standard, and we could see the new currencies trying to be created. We could see people talking about this so-called Great Reset, where they expect everything to change in the world financially. Well, that's the one world currency that we'll see. Now, will we see in our lifetime? You and I don't know, but it's going to happen. So obviously, something of this magnitude wouldn't happen overnight. But when you study the book of Revelation with the proper teacher, because there's a lot of bad teaching out there on this, because it's a kind of an enigma to so many people, and so many people don't understand it, so they don't even bother reading it. But when you truly get your head around what this book says and what God said will happen, you could see it unfolding in our everyday life. And I'm not saying that you read the newspaper and try to find something in the Bible to correlate with it. That is not what I'm saying. But some things are pretty obvious. And I'm not talking about who's going to win the next election in America, because that's actually irrelevant in the scope of the book.
What do you think where the world goes right now?
Well, I really think, as I started earlier, that it's good versus evil. Ultimately, that's where it'll end. So it's what side are you on when it does end? And it is going to be literally good versus evil when we all take our last breath. So the book talks about how if you don't know who Jesus is, it's a great time to maybe have an introduction to him or maybe listen to what he has to say. And whether you agree with it or not now, someday we're all going to stand tall in front of him. And probably be a good idea to learn a little bit about him before you take your last breath and make sure you're on the side of good. Because instead of Democrat or Republican or Palestinian versus Jew, the only thing we have to worry about is standing at the pearly gates and hearing smoking or non-smoking.
Definitely. So, Mr. Don, before we go, and I'm inviting you to listen to my other podcast, Food 101, our fourth season, with Chef Alessandro, one of the best executive chef in one of the five-star restaurants in downtown Toronto. Please do listen to our upcoming episode this Monday. We're going to talk about our latest book, Food 101, Volume 12, Italian Cuisine. Let's do tune in. And plus one more, our books are out. Not only one, but 13 volumes, people. Food 101, Volume 1, Basics until 13 is only the books that you need. How to create a delicious food. Available on Amazon and leading online bookstores worldwide. Mr. Don, can you share a memorable moment from your writing career?
Oh, there's so many. There's so many. I think probably the most memorable was the first instance, which I briefly touched on. My wife was in a missions trip in Africa. Our children were all small, and I was just scrolling through the channels looking for something to watch. And I ended up in the religious channels, just seeing if there's anything new, and here's a guy talking about money. And I was like, oh, change the channel. Here's another guy talking about money. Change the channel. This happened 6 times. Every preacher was talking about money. Now I'm a financial advisor. I deal with money all day long. I didn't want to listen about money. I was moneyed out. I just wanted to sit back and have some enjoyable television time. And it was the first time I ever felt the nudge from the Holy Spirit saying, you should write a book. And I kind of laughed. And I says, I don't even like to read. Why should I write a book? And I thought, all right. And I opened up the laptop and just started typing. I had no outline. I had no concept. I didn't even know what I was doing. I just started typing. And what I ended up typing was how man, obviously money is a tool, but man has this love for money. And then as I went back to what God says, everybody says money's the root of all evil. Well, no, that's not what God said. God said the love of money is the root of all evil. You can be totally broke and love money and worship the dollar. And then I went, worship the dollar. What does the dollar say? In God we trust. And that's where my first book, which the title was In God We Trust, the Dollar We Worship. And that kind of all came together in less than a half hour. And I was like, wow, that's pretty interesting because, there was no thought involved. There was no planning involved. And it had to be from God because I'm not that smart to be able to pull all of that off in a half hour. So it was quite fun in retrospect.
Definitely. So, Mr. Don, what advice do you have for aspiring writers?
Just write. It's not about the one page. It's not about your writer's website. It's not about the marketing. Sure, all those things are important, but so many organizations out there and so many people who claim they're going to make you a star will promise you the world and take all your money and you'll pay thousands and thousands of dollars to find out all they did was take your money. Just right. And even if you think you don't even have something that's good, who knows? Later on, you could come back to it, and you come back to something you wrote 6 months ago, and you're like, that's horrible. Well, then you come back to it and see, yeah, but this little piece over here is good. I'm going to carve that out and save it. So don't overthink it, and don't try to be a star, and don't have aspirations of making it a ridiculous amount of money. If it happens, God bless. But if that's the goal, you're probably going to be hurt. Because so few, just like any musician or any filmmaker or any writer or any entertainer, or even any sports person, so few make it to the big time. Just enjoy the journey and don't worry about the destination.
Yes, very well said, Mr. Don. And can you please invite our listeners to support your latest book, Awaken?
Yes, they can go to, first of all, you can just go to Amazon and you can do a search on Awoken, conspiracy or theory. Or even if you typed into Google search bar, Awoken, conspiracy or theory, or if you typed in my name, Don Galade, Galade, it comes up because we were so blessed and we hit that magical international best-selling mark. We're on Google as far as their, I forget the terminology because it's computer stuff, but they approved our format on Google for their advertising format. So it comes up on Google automatically. That's the short version of what I tried to say there. I'm not going to write a book on computers, that's for sure. But it's exciting. And my conventional business website, which is gfs-advisors.com, there's a link for all of our books. There's 4 of them on there. You can get the link from there as well.
Mr. Don, thank you for your time.
Thanks for having me, and I really appreciate the time and attention you've given me to explain our format, and I hope someday we can chat again.
Yes, Markham people, see you soon.